You asked me right nanotechnology, so it's only because of you. I'll just discuss it for some time. Then we'll go for chemistry. No, since it's only because of you, I'm discussing this.
If you could just give an idea.
Rough idea. I'll guess I'll give you a rough idea about this. What is nanotech also? Right. Now, when talking about the case of your technology, now as of now, we are talking about the case of your very miniature particles, right? Less than the micro-sized particles, and these particular micro-sized particles, that is what we call them as nano. Now, the word nanoscience. Now, when you talk about the case of your nanoscience, this particular word nanoscience, it was first coined by a Japanese scientist, but wherein this particular word nanotechnology, right, it was first coined by Robert Henman. Robert Henman. So the first one who has coined this particular word called as your nanotechnology. So when talking about these particular nanoparticles, any particular particle that you're taking. So what first thing, what is nanometer? Right, the moment you say nanometer, you call it as something around 10 power minus 9 meters. 10 power minus 9 meters. Or else you can even say 1 billionth part of a meter. 1 billionth of meter. This is what you call it as a nanometer. 1 billionth part of meter, which is known as nanometer. Now these particular nanoparticles. Now for example, suppose that if at all, you're taking the case of your carbon. As of now, generally the moment you say nanoparticle, the first and foremost thing that we talk about is the case of your these particular carbon particles. The moment you're talking about the case of a carbon, basically carbon exists in 4 different allotropic forms. Carbon exists in 4 different allotropic forms, right? So these particular allotropic forms, the first one you call it as the case of your coal, right? The first one you call it as coal, second one you call it as diamond. So these two we don't use them in the case of your coal or diamond. We are not using them as nanoparticles, but yes, we are using one form which I call it as graphite. Graphite. At the same time, we have got one more thing which I call it as the Buckminster fullerene. So these are the 4 allotropic forms of carbon. The 4 allotropic forms of carbon. Now, out of these particular 4, especially the case of the last one, that is the case of Buckminster fullerene, we are using this as the case of your nanoparticles. Nanoparticles. Mukyanga, you say that we use this particular thing in the making of this particular carbon nanotubes and all. We use this particular Buckminster fullerene, especially in the making of this particular carbon nanotubes, or else you can even say simply CNTs. The Buckminster fullerene, it is used especially in the case of your making of carbon nanotubes. We'll see what is a nanotubes and we'll see that one. Carbon nanotubes, CNTs, right? So when you're talking about these particular things, all these 4 different forms. Now out of these particular 4 different forms, the one, this particular thing, graphite, generally it is a good conductor of electricity. Graphite, it is a good conductor of electricity. Now based on this particular property of this particular graphite, now since you're calling it as a good conductor of electricity. Now this particular property of graphite, it is used in the making of some electrical particles. We use these particular nanoparticles, right? Nanoparticles in the making of your solar cells, in the making of your photovoltaic cells. So we use them in each and almost, we are using them in each and every part of our life as of now. But the thing is that we don't know that this is what you call it as a nanoparticle. At the same time, we even have got some amount of carbon polymers also. Right? We call them as carbon fibers. carbon fibers. Now these particular carbon fibers, yes, we are using them in our day-to-day life. Wherever you're using your automobiles, nothing but the case of your car accessories, we are using these particular carbon fibers. Maybe in the form of your car sheets, or in the case of the plastic material which is present in the what do you call that, bonnet, or the inside part of the car, the below the steering case, all the complete plastic part. So we are using all these particular materials here and there. Now, the moment you're talking about this particular carbon particles, right? Now, why this particular thing has right now, why this particular thing has gained significant carbon particles? Why the reason why they gain significance is that they're very smaller size. Now, for example, for these particular particles, suppose that if at all you take the case of your gold, generally gold we say that it is a noble metal. Gold generally we say that noble metal. Now you wear gold. Even after 1 month or 2 months or 6 months, after 1 year, the color of gold will not change. Yes, the very first day when you're wearing it, will be having some amount of shining on that one. But with respect to time, shine tagto vastundi. Why? Because of the impurities that are present around us. Continuously we are moving in and around. The moment you are moving on a vehicle, so the dust will come and settle on this one. That is the reason why color is changing. But the moment you talking about the case of your gold in general, because it's a noble metal, because it doesn't react with any other materials. That is the reason you call it as a noble metal. But this particular gold, when you are converting this to a very small size, which you are calling it as a nanoparticles, it starts behaving as a catalyst. Gold, the moment you are converting this to as a small particles, or else nanoparticles, nanomaterial, nanoparticle. Any particle, that's what, any particle which is having a size of around 10 power minus 9 meters is termed as a nanoparticle. Any particle which is having a size of 10 power minus 9 meters, that is what you have written now. 1 nanometer equal to 1 billionth of a meter. So any particle which is having a size of 10 power minus 9 meters, you call it as a nanoparticle. So gold, now suppose that I'm wearing gold right now. Now this particular gold generally you say that it is a catalyst. Normal thing, it's a noble metal because it doesn't react. At normal temperatures, gold will not react. Gold or platinum, they will never react. So that is the reason why you call them as the noble metals. Suppose that if at all you take the case of your mercury. Mercury you are storing in steel container. That's a steel water bottle. Mercury you are storing in steel container. Mercury will react with steel. Mercury will react with steel. You are storing in copper bottle. It will react with copper. You are storing in gold. It will react with gold. But mercury does not react only with iron. Mercury is inert to iron. Mercury will never react with iron. Now similarly, gold particles at normal room temperature, they are very much stable, they are very much inert. So simply call them as noble metals. But the same gold, when you are converting them into small micro-sized particles, or else even less than micro-sized particles, which are calling it as the nanoparticles. The moment you convert them into nanoparticles, gold starts behaving as a catalyst. Gold starts behaving as catalyst. The nanoparticles of gold will behave as a catalyst. The nanoparticles of gold will behave as a catalyst, which means particle size tage kodi. As the particle size is decreasing, the physical as well as the chemical properties of that particular material will keep on changing. The physical as well as chemical properties will keep on changing. When? With respect to decrease in the size of the particle. With respect to decrease in the size of the particle, the physical properties as well as chemical properties will keep on changing. And the main reason for this one is the surface to volume ratio. And the main reason for this one is surface to volume ratio. Surface to volume ratio. So as the size of a particle keeps on decreasing, the surface to volume ratio, it also keeps on decreasing. We'll see, I'll tell you what is surface to volume ratio. And the size of a particle is decreasing, surface to volume ratio will also keep on decreasing. That is the reason why the physical properties, chemical properties will keep on changing. Right? Now, coming to the case of your surface to volume ratio. What do you mean by this particular term called as your surface to volume ratio? Right. So when I'm talking about the case of your surface to volume ratio, suppose that you are taking the case of a particular sphere. You are taking the case of a particular sphere. So for the case of a sphere, every particular sphere has got some surface area. Every particular sphere has got some, even the case of a volume also. So when you're trying to calculate the volume of a sphere, when you're trying to calculate the surface area of that particular sphere, you'll be getting some value. Right? Generally, volume of a sphere is given by 4 by 3 pi r cube. This is the volume of a sphere. And surface area of a sphere you call it as something equal to 4 pi r square. So here in this case, pi and pi will get cancelled, r square and this one will get cancelled, 4 and 4 will get cancelled. So this 3 will go to the numerator. So 3 is going to the numerator, what you're left with? R is left, 3 by r, that is what is left. So this is what the case of your sphere. But here in the case of your nanoparticles, we try to calculate the surface area of cubical particles, not the spherical particles. Here you're talking about sphere. But generally nanoparticles, we try to convert them into cubical objects. Now why it is so? Suppose that this is a particular cube. A cube, right. Now in a cube, first and foremost thing, all the sides are equal. In a cube, all the sides are equal. That's a basic thing. Now here, this is what you call it as the length. Suppose that if it is 1 meter, right? This is also 1 meter. The height is also 1 meter. This is the what you're calling it as the width. Now this is also equal to 1 meter. So here in this particular case, I'm trying to calculate the surface area of this particular cube, right? Surface area of a cube is given by formula 6a square. 6a square. All sides are equal. So here in this particular case, the surface area will be equal to 6 meters square. When I'm having a cube of only 1 meter, or else maybe 1 millimeter, or else 1 centimeter, whatever it is, you're having an area or surface area of how much? 6 millimeters, 6 meters square, 6 meters square. Now this particular cube, I'm breaking into some equal parts, right? Now for example, suppose that I'm breaking this into like this. Now how many parts you will get?
2 parts.
2 parts, right? Then now how many parts you will get? 4 parts. Then how many parts you'll get now?
8.
8 parts. Simple. No? Suppose that this is one thing. First, you are cutting from here. So you are getting 2 parts. Again cutting here. 4 parts. Again cutting here. 8 parts. Is it clear? 8 parts you are getting. Now for these particular 8 parts, we try to calculate the surface area of this one for each and every one. Right? First we'll try to calculate. Now this is one, I can say that, now here in this particular case, this is one particular block. This is one particular block. For this particular block, you need to calculate the surface area. So since you are breaking this one into 2 equal parts, the length of this one will be equal to 1 by 2. Yeah. The length of this one will be equal to 1 by 2. Since you are breaking into two parts, the length of that one will be equal to 1 by 2. So 6 into 1 by 2 whole square. So how much you'll get? 6 by 4, or else you can even write as 3 by 2, right? 3 by 2. 3 by 2 meters square. But how many cubes you are having in that way? 8 cubes. So 3 by 2 into 8. So in that particular case, for all the pieces, the surface area will be equal to 12 meters for all the pieces together. Now, if at all you are writing, 6 by 4, 3 by 2, 3 by 2 meters square, this is for one particular cube. The moment you are counting for 8 cubes, that will become 12 meters square, which means the moment you are breaking a single particle, single cube into smaller particles, the surface area is increasing. The surface area is increasing. Now, for example, suppose that if at all you divide this into 27 pieces, you are dividing this into 27 pieces, which means so here in this case, you again consider a cube like this. This is a cube. Now this particular cube, I am breaking this one into 3 equal parts like this, right? Now I am getting 3 pieces, 1, 2 and 3. Then again you break this into something like this. Nine. Then again I am breaking this into now you'll be getting 27. Now you'll be getting 27 pieces. Now for this particular 27 pieces, if you calculate the surface area of this one, so I'm dividing 1 meter. Initially it was 1 meter. Now second stage you have divided that particular 1 meter into 1 by 2 meters. Third stage you are dividing into 1 by 3 meters. So surface area will become 6 into 1 by 3 whole square. So that is nothing but 6 into 1 by 9, or else you can even write this one as 2 by 3. Now this is 2 by 3 meters square for 1 cube. So if you calculate this one for 27 pieces, 3 into 9, 27, and then this will be 18 meters square. So when you had only one particular cube, the surface area was just 6 meters. So when you made one cube into 8 pieces, it got increased to 12 meters square. When you are making the same one into 27 pieces, it is increasing 3 times. 1 cube, 6 meters square. The moment you are making 27, it is becoming 18 meters square, which means it is becoming almost 3 times. Which means the surface ratio is increasing. In simple terms, right? Now this particular book, the moment you are placing on a table, it is just occupying this particular area. But this particular one, the moment I am cutting into layers, which means from here to here I am making into 3 parts. And again you are cutting into 3 parts here. Again you are cutting this into 3 parts. Any pieces, you are placing it like this. You are cutting all the pieces and placing all the pieces side by side. Then in that particular case, it is taking up more amount of area. That is what you are calling it as the surface to volume ratio. So when you are making a bigger particle into smaller particles, the surface to volume ratio, it just keeps on increasing, right? And this is what is happening in the case of your nanomaterials. So in the case of your nanomaterials, the value of surface to volume ratio is very high. Now that is the reason why the moment you are breaking a heavy particle into smaller particles, right, the physical properties are changing, the chemical properties are changing. The physical as well as chemical properties, both are changing in this particular case. That is what you call it as surface to volume ratio. And this particular thing is the fundamental thing for the case of your nanoparticles. Whenever you talk about nanoparticles, you say surface to volume ratio is very much high. High. Surface to volume value is very much high, right? 6 is becoming 12, 12 is becoming 18.
So it decreases or increases?
6 to 12, 12 to 18. It is increasing. Surface to volume ratio is increasing. Surface to volume ratio is increasing. So because of this particular special property, these particular materials, they behave as perfect electrical conductors, right? They act as a good semiconducting materials. The strength of these particular materials is very much high. All these particular special properties they start exhibiting. Electrical conductors, good semiconductors. At the same time, the physical strength is also very high.
Good electrical.
Conductors, good semiconducting materials. Physical and physical properties will be different. The physical properties will be strength. The tensile stress will be high. Tensile stress center. The tensile stress value will be very high for these particular particles. Sorry. Now here you're using one word called as your tensile stress. Right? What is the meaning of this? Now you're taking the case of a particular metallic wire. Any particular metallic wire. Now for this particular metallic wire, you are adding certain amount of weight. Now suppose that initially without the weight, so when the weight is not there, assume that the length of this one is equal to something around 1 meter. When the weight is not there, the weight of this one is equal to 1 meter. The moment you are adding some amount of weight to this one, the weight of this one is increasing. Suppose that if you are removing weight, again if the material is good quality, again it tries to come back to its original place. Right? So here in this particular, every particular material, maybe the case of a copper wire, maybe the case of a steel wire, they have certain amount of force which is acting inwards, which is acting outwards. The one which is acting in the downward direction, because of which there may be certain amount of change in the length, that is what you're calling it as this tensile stress. So generally steel wire కానీ మనం for example, best example, మనం ఇంట్లో బట్టలు ఆరేసుకునే వైర్ ఏదైతే ఉందో, the one which you use for drying your clothes, the moment you put your clothes, the next day, initially today you are tying it like this, very straight. The very first time when you're tying it, you try to make sure that you are applying all your force and making sure that you are making the knot very tightly. But the next day if you find, it becomes like this. After 3 or 4 days, even the loop will still further increase after 3 or 4 days, depending upon the weight that you are adding. So there in that particular, this particular material, it is losing certain amount of elastic nature. The ability to come back. The moment you are removing some force, the object will try to come back to its original position. Some of the objects are able to come back, but some of the objects, it depends on the elastic nature. It depends upon the elasticity. Right? Then, at the same time, now these particular materials which are calling it as the case of your nanoparticles, they can be fabricated in 2 different ways. Generally, we use 2 different ways for the fabrication of this particular, or as a manufacturing, fabrication, or as the case of your manufacturing, we use 2 different methods. One is a top-down process, at the same time, bottom-down approach. Bottom-up approach. The 2 different cases, top-down as well as the bottom-up process. So these are the 2 different methods. Now in this particular case, again you have got number of methods. You call it as the sol gel method, right? But for our examination point of view, that is not required. But the thing is that, what do you mean by the top-down process? What do you mean with bottom-up? This is what is important here. So in the case of your bottom-up process, right? So here you are trying to combine the molecules. You are trying to unite, you are trying to place all these particular molecules, which means from nano size to a bulkier size. From nano size to a bulkier size. Suppose that now this is, I call a plastic. This one I'm calling it as a plastic material, right? Now, if I take out one molecule of this one, hundreds of molecules together, you are making a big one. Hundreds of molecules at one particular place, you are making aluminum or you are making the gold. Right? And if from smaller particles, you are trying to make or you are trying to build a big one, which is efficient, which is a good conductor, which is electrically stable, all these characteristics. That is what you call it as a bottom-up process. From miniature to nanoparticles. So from miniature to the good sized particles. And from these particular blocks, you are trying to make a big one. From molecules to monomers. And from there, again, you are trying to make a big size particle. But in the case of your top-down process, the reverse one will happen. You are having a big particle. This particular big particle will be divided into small blocks. And these particular small blocks, again, they'll be divided into nanoparticles. The complete reverse ka jaruta untadi. So these are the two different ways by which top-down process as well as the case of your bottom-up process. So these are the two different ways by which the nanoparticles are synthesized, or as the case of your nanomaterials are manufactured. Nanoparticles are synthesized, or as the case of your nanoparticles are synthesized. Now, done.
So nano is the smallest, or is there something smaller than nano?
We have smaller, but as of now we are working only on nano. We haven't moved on to pico. See, when you're writing the particle size, 10 power minus 6, this is what you know. We call it as micro. 10 power minus 9, this is known as nano. 10 power minus 12, you call it as pico. 10 power minus 15, you call it as femto. And 10 power minus 18, we call it as atto. This is the particles. Still you have minus 21, minus 24, still you are working on that. Right? So we haven't reached to this particular level, but as of now we are working on this particular nanoparticles. But the thing is that some of the scientists, they are against this particular nanoparticles. Because the moment you are disturbing a particular structure, it means that they feel that you are disturbing the nature. And that may lead to even nano pollution in the future also. Yes, as of now we are working on nanoparticles, but at the same time, there is one more term that is even popping up, that is what you call it as a nano pollution. The pollution because of these particular micro-sized particles, or as the very, very miniature sized part. Instead of using the word microparticles, a better word miniature particles is very good. Because the moment you are using micro, it means that you are talking about 10 power minus 6. But we need to talk even smaller than that one. So the better word for that is miniature particles, or as similarly you say nanoparticles. Right? At the same time. Now these particular nanoparticles, some of them they will be 2 dimensionals, at the same time some of them they are 3 dimensionals. 2 dimensions as well as 3 dimensions. So any particular nanoparticle which is having only 2 dimensions, any particle which is having only 2 dimensions, which means either it is having length and breadth, or as length and only 2 dimensions, whatever it is that one. So these particular nanoparticles, they are more effective when compared to the case of 3-dimensional objects. 2 dimensions are more effective when compared to 3 dimensions. 2-dimensional nanoparticles are more effective when compared to 3-dimensional nanoparticles. The reason for that one is 2-dimensional particles will be having less surface to area when compared to, they'll be having more surface to area when compared to 3-dimensional ones. 2 dimension, 3 dimension. 3 dimensions అంటే x, y, z 3 ఉంటాయి. 2 dimensions అంటే you're having only x and y లేదా y and z 2 ఉంటాయి. అంటే అప్పుడు particle size అనేది ఎలా ఉంటుంది, ఇంకా తక్కువగా ఉంటుంది. As the particle size keeps on decreasing, the effectiveness of that one will be just keeping on multiplying, or else will be keeping on increasing. So
3D should be more effective, right?
2D, 3D, when you are comparing 2D and 3D, in which particular case the size is bigger?
In 2D.
In case of a 3D, size is bigger because you're even having the z-axis also. X, Y, and Z. But the moment you talk about the case of a 2-dimension, you're having only 2 coordinates, either X and Y, Y and Z, or else Z and X, any 2 coordinates, any 2 axes. So the size will become less, or else you can even say the particle, instead of being bulky, the moment you say X, Y, Z, it may be bulky, right? So bulky in the sense, at that particular level it is bulky, but for us, right, it's a very small size, because we can't see 10 power minus 9. We can't see 10 power minus 9, right? So when you're talking about the case of a 10 power minus 9, X, Y, Z axis, which means that it is on bigger side. The moment you say only X and Y, it is on a still smaller side. So these particular things which are calling as the 2-dimensional ones, right? The first 2-dimensional one that was prepared, the first 2-dimensional nanoparticle, that one that was prepared is nothing but the case of your graphene. Yeah.
2D is more effective or 3D is more?
2D is more effective.
Why is that so? Because the surface to volume ratio is higher.
High, surface to volume ratio is high, or else you can even say the size of the particle is less. Now, Hari, you're taking one particle. This is 3 dimensions. This is 3 dimensions. The moment I say 3 dimension, this is a 3 dimension, right? This is 3 dimensions, sure. It is having length, it is having certain amount of thickness which are calling as a breadth, at the same time the height. Suppose that if at all I talk only about this particular page, right, when I'm comparing the thickness with respect to this one, the thickness of this one is very less, negligible. So in this particular case, I simply talk about the case of a length, at the same time I'm talking only about the case of a breadth. So which one is having more surface to area volume ratio, or else which particle is having less size, 3D or 2D?
2D.
2D is having less amount of size, right? So even here in this particular, when it is only one, the surface to area volume, surface area of this one was 6 meters square. So when you have broken down this one into 8 pieces, the surface area of this one got increased to 12 meters square. When you have broken this one to 27 pieces, the surface to volume ratio has gone increased to 18 meters square. Which means as the particle size is continuously decreasing, then the surface area value is continuously increasing in this particular case, right? So that is the reason why we say that 2-dimensional particles are more effective when compared to 3 dimensions. Then, when talking about these particular things, the first 2-dimensional picture, the first 2-dimensional material, or as a metal of nano size, metal at the same time 2 dimension, right? We call it as galene, the first 2-dimensional metal. You talk about the case of a graphene. Now this particular graphene, it is a nano size particle but belonging to the case of a particular non-metal. Graphene, from where you are getting graphene? Graphite. From graphite we get graphene. From gallium we get galene. From gallium we get galene. From graphite we are getting graphene, right? So graphene is the first nano-sized particle which is made with the help of a non-metal, wherein galene is the first nano-sized particle which is made with the help of a nano-sized metal particle which is made at 2-dimensional scale. Now when you're comparing this particular graphene, as of now we are using this particular graphene in the making of your carbon fibers, in the making of your carbon tubes. What are they? Let's see. Now, when talking about the case of your graphene, this is the way how it looks like. So in the case of your graphene, see, again it's a 2-dimensional structure. I think I'll not be able to write on this one, just see this one, right? It's a carbon allotrope. I can write, huh? How? Right. So we're talking about the case of a graphene. It's a two-dimensional structure. Galene, two-dimensional structure, right? But graphene is made out of graphite, which is a non-metal. Right? From where you are getting graphite? Carbon. Allotropic form of carbon. That's what you have written already, right? So you are late. So already make a note of that. So graphene is an allotropic form of carbon. So if carbon is a non-metal, graphite is also a non-metal. If graphite is a non-metal, even graphene is also a non-metal, right? The difference is that here you're talking about the case of a particular two-dimensional structure. The first two-dimensional structure, at the same time the first nano-sized particle, that is what you're calling as graphene. And since it is a first nano-sized non-metal particle, at the same time graphene, even though it's a non-metal, the main reason for that one is that graphene is a non-metal. Even though it is a good conductor of electricity, that is the biggest advantage of this one. That is the reason why we are using them in the case of electrical conductors. At the same time, we are using this in the case of semiconductors. Everywhere we are using this particular graphene as of now, right? So if you just observe the shape of this one, in this particular case, they are arranged in the form of your hexagonal structure. This is what you call it as an hexagonal structure. 6 sides. Hexagonal structure. This is the case of a graphene. Then at the same time, right. So when talking about the case of your properties of graphene, right? It's a good conductor of heat and electricity. Graphene, it is a good conductor of heat and electricity. It is composed of carbon atoms linked in hexagonal structure, right? Main thing, heat as well as electricity. At the same time, the most special thing is that it is 200 times stronger than steel lattice. Steel structure annatledhu ikkada. Structure is different, lattice is different. The moment I'm talking about the case of a lattice, right? Now, for example, suppose that if at all I take the case of your sodium chloride. Sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, basically we call it as an ionic component. Sodium chloride, basically we call it Na plus and Cl minus. It is an ionic compound. So in the case of your sodium chloride, basically sodium chloride has got a cubical structure. Sodium chloride has got a cubical structure, right? This is the way how the atoms are arranged in the case of your sodium chloride. This is a cube. Yes? Right. So in this particular cubical structure, again the structure is divided into multiple layers like this. Like this. So here in this particular case, you'll be having at one corner you'll be having Na plus. Here also you're having Na plus. Between this particular point, this is a case of Cl minus. Again you'll be having Na plus here. At corners Na plus. So between two Na plus you'll be having one Cl minus. This is what you call it as the lattice. Single thing, only single one. One NaCl molecule. Right? But I cannot see one NaCl. I need to have many NaCls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Piling up together. That is what you are able to see, which you are calling it as your table salt. Cooking salt, table salt. Right? So this is this particular smallest structure of any particular substance, that is what is known as lattice. Right? We are not saying that graphene is stronger when compared to steel. We are saying that the structure of graphene is stronger when compared to the lattice of steel. Right? A better conductor when compared to copper. Almost transparent in nature. Almost transparent in nature. So where we are using this? We are using this in the case of your paints, in the case of your coatings, capacitors, at the same time the case of your batteries, printer materials. So almost we are using this in our day-to-day life, right? Paints and coatings we are using in our day-to-day life. Oils we are using in our day-to-day life. At the same time your capacitors. Without a capacitor the ceiling fans will not work. The case of your batteries. You're using the different types of batteries, whether you're using a dry battery kavacho, or else whether you're using a battery in which we are using distilled water. We might be using bichromate cells, we may be using Daniel cell, we may be using Leclanche or Voltaix, the different types of batteries that we are using. Right? At the same time, the display materials. This is one display material. This is one display material. But at the same time, if you really observe, this is very rock hard. Very hard substance. Generally, the moment you feel this is made of glass, maybe if you touch it harder, it may break. There is a chance that it may break. Even a TV screen also, LED screen, it almost looks like a fiber material. It's not a glass. The earlier day, olden day TVs, they used to be glass. The modern day LEDs, they are completely the fiber-like materials. Just like your tempered glass. Right? That you cannot break them easily. You cannot break them easily. So this is the structure of your graphene. Then at the same time, you are talking about the case of your carbon nanotubes. Right? We use this particular carbon nanotubes in our day-to-day life. Carbon nanotubes at the same time, we are talking about the case of a carbon fibers. Right? Carbon fibers and carbon nanotubes both are different. Now these particular carbon fibers, now this is the way how your carbon fiber looks like. Just like an ordinary cloth material. This particular material, right? This is looking like an ordinary cloth, but maybe this is consisting of or is composing of the case of your carbon materials. Depending upon the amount that we are spending, right? This is not a carbon graphene. This is not this one. But the moment you are spending high amount, then in that particular case we may use it. Now this is the one which is used in the case of your, see that, it is used in the make of your civil engineering or else military or else in the case of your sports also we are using this one. Sports in the sense you may be using that one for the case of your shoes or else the case of your football materials or else any particular net-like materials. So in all those particular cases we are using this particular material which we are calling it as carbon fiber. Chudanka ordinary cloth lane undadi. But the thing is that this particular carbon fiber, it is having high amount of stiffness, tensile strength, less weight, that is more important, high temperature tolerance, low thermal expansion, high chemical resistance. So these are all the features of your carbon fiber. But this particular carbon fiber is different from your cotton material completely. You talk about the case of your cotton. Cotton is completely different. Nylon is completely different. Right? We are using cotton, we are using nylon, we are using polyester. So those materials, they are highly different when compared to this one. Simple reason, low thermal expansion, high temperature tolerance. Your polymers, right? Or as you take the case of a nylon, you take the case of a rayon, or as you take the case of a cotton, they can easily catch fire. They can easily catch fire. But the thing is that this particular material, it is having high temperature tolerance. Suddenly, if at all you have got some fire accident in the car, this particular material will not allow the car to be burnt away completely because it is made of such material. So these things we are using in the case of your materials as of now. We are using in military at the same time, even for the case of your sports. Now, the other day there was a news regarding this particular military. Have you watched that movie 3 Idiots? Maybe you might have watched 3 Idiots. So there in that particular case, Amir Khan, he plays the role of some scientist, Wang Chu. Finally, be sure. What is his name? Sonam Wangchu. Now, that particular person, he is there in reality. Right? He is somewhere in Jammu and Kashmir or Ladakh. Right? Ladakh, the northern part of India, Jammu and Kashmir or Ladakh. Right? Once upon a time, Jammu and Kashmir. Now you are calling it as Jammu and Kashmir or as the case of Ladakh. Now that particular person, he has prepared a tent which can accommodate almost 10 soldiers at a time. And that particular tent is absorbing heat from the surroundings, and inside the tent, the temperatures are almost normal. instead of being into minus degree centigrade, they are in some positive value around 2 degrees or 3 degrees. Minus is far less. When you're comparing 2 or 3 degrees centigrade, that is far better because of rather than minus degree centigrade. So he has prepared one particular tent which is giving or which is absorbing heat from the surroundings. Right? So that is the technology that we are working on it. Right? So that is the reason why you're talking about the case of carbon fibers. Then, so these particular carbon, this is the way how they look like, the carbon nanotubes. So these particular carbon nanotubes, they are almost hollow in nature. You don't find them completely solid. Now it is because of this particular hollow nature, we can have one nanotube inside another nanotube inside another nanotube. So as a result of which, the electrical conductivity of these particular materials is very much high when compared to the case of your ordinary materials. At the same time, each and every particular layer is different, is behaving in a different manner. Altogether, it starts behaving in a different manner altogether. Right? So these particular carbon nanotubes, if you observe, they are very much strong, at the same time they are very much light. And at the same time, they are used to strengthen the composite materials. So the moment you're talking about any particular carbon material, or else the case of a carbon nanotubes, especially we are using them in the place of your steel. Maybe in the future, steel will be replaced by all these particular carbon nanotubes, or else in simple terms, the nanothings. Now, as of now, we are using these particular nanoparticles even in the case of a medicine also. Cancer treatment or any sort of thing. The thing is that these particular medicines, they will be placed in these particular carbon nanotubes, almost small miniature size. The medicine will be given to the desired area only. Now, for example, suppose that if I say a person is having cold, right? The moment you take that particular tablet called as your citrizine, you start feeling drowsy. Now, why you are feeling drowsy? Because of that particular medicine, right? But the moment you're taking this particular tablet, which is made of your nanotubes, the medicine will be given only to the case of your nose or else to the affected part of the body. The remaining part of the body will be completely active. If at the moment you're taking citrizine, you're having the problem with your nose, but the moment you take a medicine, your complete body is getting inactivated. You start feeling drowsy, you start feeling for hours together. 6 hours, 7 hours together, you start feeling drowsiness. Why? Because you're giving antibiotic medicine or else you're giving anti-allergic tablet to the complete body. And that particular body and that particular medicine is disturbing the cells completely. Right? And at the same time, the overusage of those particular medicines, it may even alter the DNA structure also. DNA structure, the genetic variations that you get because of excessive use of medicines. Right? This is about, right. So where we are using the carbon nanotubes, we are using them in the case of your car accessories, at the same time the aerospace vehicles. At the same time, we are using this in the case of a thermoset or as the case of a carbon fiber. So when I'm talking about the case of a thermoset, this is one type of a polymer. You can see here polyurethane. Polyurethane, it is nothing but a polymer material. The moment you say polyvinyl chloride is a polymer. Vinyl chloride is a monomer. Now, when you're talking about your plastic bags, plastic covers, they are made of polythene, right? Polythene is a mono, which means there in that particular case, when you're talking about the case of a polymers, many single particles, the moment you're placing them at one particular place, you call it as a polythene. Many particles, many micro-sized particles at one particular place, you call it as a polymer. So in the case of your PVC or as the case of a polyvinyl chloride, the basic substance is ethene. Right? Polythene, right? Polythene. So you're calling it as ethylene or else you call it as ethyne, both mean the same. Right? That is the basic thing which you're calling it as a monomer. So that particular monomer, when you're repeating in a three-dimensional space, you are getting the one which you are calling it as a polythene. And that particular polythene, it is of high density, low density. Now this is also one. At the same time, pressure cooker lo manam use chese rubber material. Gasket, you call it as a gasket. Even that particular gasket is also a polymer, it's not rubber. It's a gas, it is a polymer, which you call it as Teflon. Which you are calling it as Teflon. Generally, we use Teflon material for your non-stick frying pans, for making your dosa or something like that, right? So any particular thing which you are using for deep fry or something like that, we use that particular Teflon coated material. So Teflon is again a chemical, which we are using it. So the pen that you are using, it's again a form of your polymer, but we don't say it as a plastic. Plastic, we have got number of varieties. Out of that one, this is even the bags that we are using. Suppose that if you take any particular plastic, the bag that you are using, you just put a candle at one particular end. If it is cotton, it will burn slowly. But the moment you are burning this particular thing, the size of this one starts shrinking. Cotton will never shrink. It simply burns away. If it is a plastic material or if it is a polymer, then only the size of this one starts shrinking, because it's a polymer material. So that's it. This is about the case of your nano, as what you have asked. The basic infrastructure about the nanoparticles.
But then what's nanotechnology? We talked about nanomaterials. What's nanotechnology?
Technology, or else anything, or the study of all these particular particles, involving them in making different type of structures, right? The nanoparticles, their study, at the same time the fabrication, the manufacturing of different equipments using nanoparticles. It is one of the reasons why one of the scientists, the very first scientist, this of Jadon, to make it 27 also. 27.
Applications of nanoparticles.
You are talking about applications in the field of your industries, medicine. So we are using these particular nanoparticles in the field of your industries, in the field of your medicine, at the same time in the field of aeroscience.
So which industry? Specific industry?
Pharma industry. Right. At the same time, we are talking about the case of automobile industry. Pharma industry, or as a case of your automobile industry. You're talking about the case of electrical industries. Anything which is manufacturing capacitors or condensers, or as the case of electrical wires.
So in automobile, how are they used? Example. Graphene, okay.
Carbon nanotubes are used as car accessories. The accessories of cars. Right? Aerospace vehicles, we are using them. At the same time, we are even using them in the case of your carbon fibers, the glass industry. This is one particular glass. It's very hard in nature.
So what is the
Thermoset. So generally, these particular materials, when you're talking about these particular materials, polymers or different as well. The moment I'm placing this in water, will it dissolve?
No.
The moment you are placing this one in kerosene, will it dissolve? No. But these particular materials, which are calling it as epoxide, or else you're calling it as a polyurethane, at one particular point, they have the ability to decompose in water. Or a particular solvent is not a particular solvent low, they have the ability to get dissolved. That is what we call them as thermosets.
Other than graphene and gallium, any other nano?
No, we are trying to have the nanoparticles from almost each and everything. Gold నుంచి కూడా nanoparticles ఉన్నాయి. That's what we discussed, right? Or every particle ma. Silver is also having nanoparticles. But ఏంటంటే ఎక్కువగా యూస్ చేస్తుంది ఇవే యూస్ చేస్తున్నాం. As of now, we are working only on graphene. The simple reason, graphene is behaving as an electrical material, at the same time it's behaving as a semiconducting material, both.
In one of the previous years, they asked a question regarding the use of FRPs and application of FRPs in automobile industry, particularly of the automobile industry.
Use of
FRPs.
fast breeder reactors.
FRP. I think FRP stands for fiber reinforced plastics.
Okay.
So they are particularly asking for how they are applied in automobile industry. And how can we head that such question? I mean, until and unless we don't have subject specificity.
Firstly, you need to have a. So there in that particular case, see that is what I just keep on telling you, always the same one and only the same thing. As long as you are talking about the case of your SINT for your mains point of view or else the preliminary point of view, you need to focus on your newspapers, because the FRP, the one that you have said right now, you don't find that particular thing in any of the books or else any of the magazines or anything else. Simple thing, you need to keep your eye in the industry related issues, right? At the same time, the books. So the books that you are having in the market, they will serve your purpose only up to 25 to 30% alone. That's nothing more than that. For the preliminary examination point of view, that will be only 25 to 30%. That's it, nothing more than that. Now, beyond that, the moment you're talking about any particular examination, any particular question, right, you need to simply focus on your newspapers or any particular science article, science related articles or else science related issues. So unfortunately, you are getting around 10 to 12 questions from this particular part. So out of which, maybe you can expect around 3 to 4 questions from your conventional books, the books that we are following. And beyond that, the remaining 7 to 8 questions, it's completely reliable. You need to rely only on the case of your newspapers. Any particular new thing that is coming up, popping up in the newspaper, you need to completely analyze it, what is happening, how it is happening. Right? Now, suppose that if at all we all know, now the thing, one thing I'll leave it to you for people. Now we all know that you are talking about the case of a Covaxin or else the case of a Covishield. What are they?
Vaccines.
COVID-19.
Vaccines. What is the chemical that is used in there? Am I right? No, it is not antibody, it's not dead antiviruses. So there in that, how to close this?
Sir, carbon fiber and glass fiber are same.
Carbon, yes,
Same.
it's almost the same. Chaptanu de. How to close this? Right. Find. There is one thing. The other day I found it for someone. I've written the name of that particular virus. N440K and E484Q. This is what we discussed yesterday. So somewhere it is missing for this one, right? So just observe that particular Covishield or as a case of your Covaxin, you have got the medicine, that the name of the medicine that is present in that. Suppose that if I say Crocin tablet. Crocin is the name of the medicine or else it's the name of the company that has manufactured it. The right? Every company has got its own name. Someone call it as a Crocin, someone call it as a Dolo 650. But what is the main composition which is present in that one? Paracetamol. మనకు గుర్తుండాల్సింది పారాసిటమాల్ క్రోసిన్, రైట్? కోవాక్సిన్, కోవిషీల్డ్ మన లెవెల్కి లేదా మీ లెవెల్కి యు ఆర్ నాట్ సపోజ్ టు రిమెంబర్, రైట్? Covishield, or as the case of your Covaxin, Bharat Biotech, who has what it has manufactured, or as the case of AstraZeneca, Serum Research, that is not your level. Your level is wherein you need to go into deeper part of that one. What is the medicine that the common thing that we are using in the case of your Covaxin or Covishield? Andlo na medicine indi, that is what we are supposed to know. Right? Bharat Biotech has manufactured this, Serum Research Institute has manufactured this, Pfizer is using this company. We are not bothered about this. You need to find out the internal part of that one. What are the antibody, the name, if you have any antibody name for that one, find the name of that particular thing. Right? The medicine that is present in the case of a Covaxin, Covishield, try to find out that particular. That is what is important for our examination point of view, or else your examination standard. అంతేగాని Group 1 prepare కాకండి. Group 1 that's a different case. Group 2, that's a different case. You are not preparing for Group 1 or Group 2. Right?
So challenges in nanotechnology. What are the challenges that nanotechnology faces?
So one of the problems is that this particular thing, wide scale of technology is not available, or else I can even say that technology is not known to each and every particular person, so that it can be incorporated at the grassroots level. The R&D is still in the development process. At the same time, now for example, suppose that if you take the case of your Telangana state, how many universities are offering a course in the case of a nanotechnology? Or else you ask about any particular BTech students, right? You ask them about any particular nanoparticles or anything. They have no idea about this. But the simple reason for that one is that the education level as of now, nanoscience, or as the case of nanotechnology, it is not added at the grassroots level. Now, when the students are not reading at the graduation level, or as the case of post-graduation level, then what about the research case? First thing that has to be incorporated. At the same time, the central government has started one particular program, the Nanotechnology Development Initiative Program. And that particular program has to be implemented at not only the industry level. You need to talk about the case of education level also, education system also. At the same time, the moment suppose that if you are synthesizing or manufacturing any particular particles or any particular thing, any machines which are based on this particular nanotechnology, then you need to have some technical persons for that one instead of to solve some technical issues.
So you were talking about nano pollution. So what is that nano pollution?
No, that word is just started, nano pollution. The word nano pollution, which means the moment you're talking about these particular micro-sized particles, the miniature-sized particles. Now, it may be these particular miniature-sized particles, they may pose a problem in the future. The miniature-sized particles. But what sort of pollution? We don't have any clarity about this. Because the technology is not yet developed at the full scale. So when the technology is not yet developed to the full scale, so then in that particular case, as of now, we don't have any particular idea about what sort of pollution it is going to have or is it going to create. Right? Now, when you go into the case of your chemistry, now this is the way how you classify matter. The simple terms here. Classification of matter. Matter basically, this is what we don't require the complete thing. What we require, I'll just tell you. So here in this particular case, the chemical classification, you are dividing this into pure substances as well as the case of your mixtures. Pure substances, you further divide them into elements as well as compounds. Right? Elements, you are dividing them into metals, non-metals, as well as the case of metalloids. different. Each and everything is different. Metals, non-metals, as well as metalloids. There is one question on your metals in 2017, I suppose. Metals, one of the properties of metals. There is one question in 2017. Then compounds, you classify them into organic as well as inorganic. Mixtures, homogeneous mixtures. These homogeneous mixtures, you are calling them as true solutions. So for us, we need to focus on the case of colloids, emulsions, as well as suspensions. Heterogeneous mixtures, you are classifying them into colloids, emulsions, as well as suspensions. So what are these particular colloids or else emulsions or else suspensions? So when I'm talking about these particular things, right? So basically, the moment you're talking about the case of your substances, you're classifying them into metals. And first, I'll just give an idea about metals, non-metals, as well as metalloids. Now, we heard about metals. We heard about non-metals. What about metalloids? Right. First, we'll talk about the case of your metals. Suppose that when you're talking about the case of your metals, metals have some properties. Some special properties. Generally, we all know that metals are good conductors of heat as well as electricity. They are the good conductors. Apart from this one, metals possess a property called as ductility. At the same time, metals possess a property called as malleability. Only metals possess this ductility as well as the case of your malleability. Metals possess malleability as well as the case of your ductility. Now, suppose if at all 10 grams of gold is given to you, 10 grams of gold, right? So with that particular 10 grams of gold, how long chain can you make? 10 grams of gold. So with that particular 10 grams of gold, how big chain can you make?
Depends on the density. You want to make it fat or thin.
I want to make it, that's what. So how long can you make? The moment I'm saying how long can you make, you try to make it as thin as possible. Right? How long? Generally, you people use gold to the best. Technical words or no. Now just tell me, how long chain can you make? Now you are wearing a chain. Right. Of course, it may not be gold, something else. So if 10 grams of gold is given, you can make a chain of this one, which means almost this one. If you are making it thinner and thinner, you can make it 1 meter. Am I right? But with gold, you can make a wire which is of almost 1 kilometer. With 10 grams of gold, on a metal వేసుకున్న chain, generally 10 grams ఉంటుంది. If it was financially sound, they go for 15 grams or 20 grams, that's a different case. Right? So with just 10 grams of gold, you can make a wire of 1 kilometer length, 1000 meters. I'm not talking about 1 meter, you can make a wire of 1000 meters. Which means gold can be dragged into very, very thin wire, even lesser thickness than my hair or your hair.
Someone are using gold
Shirt.
threads in saris also.
Gold threads in saris. A person, one is in Bombay or Nagpur. His shirt is completely made of gold.
Right.
No cotton thread. No cotton thread at all. His shirt weighs something around 5 kgs of gold. He is wearing it already. Daily he wears only that one. Right. So the particular nature of a material by which you can convert a metal into thin wires, you call it as ductility. The ability to convert a metal into thin wires. The ability to convert a metal into thin wires. Then, whenever you go to any particular sweet shop, on the sweets you find a white colored layer. What is that?
Silver.
Silver. A white kalakan, or else the case of a barfi or any particular thing, you'll be finding a white colored layer on that one. Right. Now suppose that if I'm giving you, hurry, take 1 gram of silver, eat it. Is it possible that you can eat that one? Can you digest that one? No way. But that particular silver, when you're converting into a fine foil, not paper, fine foil, or else a thin foil, The moment you're using that on a piece of on a sweet, you're able to eat that. You're able to digest that one. Right? Conversion of a metal into thin foils, it is known as malleability. Conversion of metal into thin foils, we call it as malleability. Tungsten is the one which is having the maximum malleability. Tungsten, the one with maximum malleability, we call it as tungsten.
So, metal or non-metal?
Metal. Only metals have this particular property. Only metals.
TG, sir. Tungsten.
TG.
TG.
TG or TS?
Instant Wolfram gas.
W.
TW.
W. Just simply W. W. Right. So you're talking about the case of your metals. So metals exhibit only these things, ductility as well as the case of your malleability. At the same time,
Highest
malleability tungsten, highest ductility is gold. Highest ductility is gold. Then, when talking about the case of your non-metals. So when talking about the case of your non-metals. Non-metals generally, they do not possess shining nature. Non-metals, they do not possess shining nature. But there is one particular metal which exhibits shining, or else non-metal which exhibits shining. That's nothing but the case of iodine. Iodine is a non-metal, but still it possesses shining nature. Iodine is a non-metal, but still it possesses the shining nature. All non-metals do not exhibit shining nature, but only iodine can exhibit shining nature. At the same time, non-metals, they do not possess ductility, they do not possess malleability. Then you talk about the case of your metalloids. The properties of metalloids lie between metals and non-metals. Now you said that metals are good conductors of electricity. Non-metals are poor conductors of electricity. Then metalloids, they will be 50% they're alloying, 50% they're not alloying. In simple terms, we call them as semiconductors. Metalloids properties are between metals and non-metals. Properties of metalloids are between metals and non-metals. Example, boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic. So these are some of these particular astatine, polonium. These are some of the metalloids. Boron, silicon, germanium, astatine and polonium, they are some of the metalloids. So they possess properties between metals as well as non-metals, right? Then at the same time, right? Now coming to the case of your mixtures. So whenever you're talking about the case of your mixtures, you have got two substances, two things, which you call it as a solute, and the other one you call it as the solvent. Solute as well as the solvent. The one which is present in small quantity, the one that is present in smaller quantity, you call it as a solute. The one that is present in larger quantity, you call it as solvent. The one that is a particular mixture. Now, for example, suppose that when I'm taking a glass of water, in this particular glass of water, you are adding some sugar crystals. So these particular sugar crystals will be solute and water will be the solvent. The one which is present in larger quantity, you call them as solvent, and the one which is present in smaller quantity, you call it as the solute. So when you are mixing them, whenever you are mixing two mixtures, you get, or it's two or more substances, you get a mixture. Whenever you are mixing two or more substances, you get a mixture. Two or more substances will give you mixture. two or more substances will give mixture. Mixtures can be homogeneous or mixtures can be heterogeneous. Mixtures can be homogeneous, లేదా they can be even heterogeneous. So whenever you are adding water and sand, always a heterogeneous. The moment you are adding water and sugar, లేదా salt, it becomes a homogeneous mixture. Water and salt, water and sugar, homogeneous. Water and sand, water and iron, always a heterogeneous mixtures. Then, now these particular heterogeneous mixtures, you have got different types in that one. One is, you call it as suspension center. At the same time, the other one, you call it as colloids. Heterogeneous mixtures, we have got three different types. One is suspensions, other one is colloids. At the same time, the other one, emulsion center. Other one, we call it as emulsions. Suspensions, colloids, as well as emulsions. Three different types. Now, suppose that in a glass of water, you are dissolving some amount of chalk paste powder. You're taking a chalk paste, crushing that into fine powder, and then you're adding that one into water. Will we be able to see that particular fine chalk paste powder? వాటర్లో చాక్ పీస్ పౌడర్ కలిపినా లేదా టాల్కమ్ పౌడర్ కలిపినా మనకు కనిపిస్తుందా కనిపించదా?
Color changed into white color. Water, white color.
Okay.
We can see.
We can see the color, at the same time we can see even those particles, chalk paste particles also we can see them, which means they are visible to naked eye. You don't require any particular instrument, you don't require any particular lens. You can simply say that this particular water is consisting of certain amount of chalk paste powder, or else any particular powder it is consisting, we can simply say that. Right? So suspensions basically they are homogeneous mixture, but here in this particular case, the particles they can be seen with naked eye. They are visible to naked eye. They are visible to naked eye. The particles in the meat, in case of suspensions, heterogeneous mixture. Suspensions, colloids and emulsions, these three, they are a part of your heterogeneous mixtures. These three, they are a part of heterogeneous mixtures. But in the case of these things, we can see the particles which are present in a minute quantity. Chalk paste particles are present in less quantity, water is present in major quantity. We can see those particular chalk paste particles. They are visible to naked eye. Right. But at the same time, suppose that if you are adding a spoon of cream to water, water looks like completely, so cream looks like to be completely dissolving in water. But the fact is that the cream particles, they are not soluble in water. So if at all the size of these particular particles, whenever the particles of the solute, if the size of the particles is somewhere between 1 nanometer to, right? Suppose that the size of the particles is somewhere between 1 nanometer to 100 nanometers, then we call them as colloids. If the size of the suspended particles is 1 nanometer to 100 nanometers, we call them as colloids. They look like homogeneous mixtures, but they are not homogeneous mixtures. Size is 1 nanometer to 100 nanometers. They look like homogeneous, but they are not homogeneous mixtures. All the colloids, they are always a heterogeneous mixture only. All the colloids, they are always heterogeneous mixture only.
Can
Now,
you see them, sir?
we cannot see them with naked eye. We cannot see them with naked eye, but you can see them with the help of some instruments. The moment you are using some instruments, we can see them. But directly with the naked eye, they are not visible. Right? At the same time. So in the case of your colloids, we'll be having two different types of media. Again, one is dispersed phase. one is dispersed phase and the other one is dispersed medium. In the case of your colloids, again having, instead of using the word solute and solvent, here we use the word dispersed phase as well as dispersed medium. We don't use solid and solvent here. We are simply directly using dispersed phase as well as dispersed medium, which means in the case of your colloids, we are having the substances in the three states of matter. Out of those particular three states of matter, we are having two states at one particular place. Yesterday we are talking about the case of your shaving foam, or else the foam that we are using after cutting your cake. So what is that? Whether it is a liquid or else whether it is a gas, that is what we are talking about. So there in that particular case, you are having two forms of the matter: solid, liquid or gas. You will be finding two forms. The one which is present in small quantity, you are calling it as a dispersed phase, in which form it is. And the one in which you are dissolving it, which is present in larger quantity, you call it as a dispersed medium. The medium can be again solid or liquid or gas even. You are talking about the case of dust particles. When you're moving on a bike, you are getting some dust particles. So dust particles are present in which form? Solid form. They are present in which form of the matter? Air. They are present in the gaseous form. So there in that particular case, the solid particles are present in the gaseous medium. Right? You have got a table for that one. I'll give you that. Hurry, hold on. You have got a table for that. So you need to make it complete table on that one. Then you talk about the case of right. First we'll complete this and then we'll go for that. Solute, solvent. So this is not required. Right. So we're talking about the case of suspensions. A heterogeneous mixture in which solids are dispersed in liquids. At the same time, these particles are visible to naked eye. So we call them as the case of your suspensions. They are visible to naked eye. Then at the same time, emulsions will do this. So we're talking about the case of your colloids. Again, colloids, you're calling it as a heterogeneous mixture in which the size of the particles is somewhere between 1 nanometer to 100 nanometers. And then
Here, size of the particle means solute.
Solute. But instead of using the word solute, we call it as the dispersed phase. Dispersed phase. Right? So, right. Now this is the case. So suppose that first we know these things. You know what is mist. Now you know what is mist, or else you know what is fog, you know what is clouds. The best thing we all know, clouds we all know. What are clouds? So clouds, in the case of a clouds, liquid is present. Water molecules are present in cloud. Water molecules, you call it as gas. So liquid plus gas, you are calling it as a liquid aerosol. This is the what you are getting, right? You need to know up to this particular thing, at least up to this. Example for liquid aerosols: mist, cloud and fog. They are the examples for liquid aerosols. At the same time, you are talking about solid and gas. Dust particles in air, you call them as aerosols. Dust, or as the case of your smoke. So whenever you're going out, you generally experience this particular thing. Dust you're experiencing even smoke. So when you're talking about dust and smoke, lesser quantity will be dust, majority quantity will be smoke. Dispersed phase, dispersed. Idi kuda idea undali. Which is dispersed phase, which is dispersed medium. He will not use the word solute and solvent for colloids. We are heterogeneous mixtures. Even in this one, you find one substance in smaller quantity, we find one substance in major quantity, but even then we don't use the word solid and solvent, but here you are using the word dispersed phase as well as dispersed medium. Now at the same time, talking about the case of a foam, the shaving foam, or else after cutting your cake, you are having some foam. So what is that? Gas is present in smaller quantity, major quantity is liquid is present. Gas is present in liquid, which are calling it as foam. At the same time, if you talk about the case of your milk, generally we say that milk is a homogeneous milk. We always do this particular mistake. We always say that milk is a homogeneous mixture, but milk is a heterogeneous mixture in which you are having liquid and liquid. Liquid mixed in liquid. You're calling it as a perfect emulsion. Like, what is emulsion? We'll see that. At the same time, solids and liquids. Nothing in the case of your paint. We know this one. We know this particular thing, jellies. The fruit jellies, or the one generally kids eat a lot, jellies. They're all nothing but the case of your solid and liquid. And this is one that is regularly appearing again. Butter. Liquid which is present in solid. Skachitanga ivi idea undali. So we can just ignore these two, solid foam as well as solid soul. But apart from these two, each and everything, these are all your common examples. Please make a complete note of this one. The complete table. Because these are all the things which are related to our environmental issues, or as the one that is surrounding us.
Except for the terms solvent and solute, it is the same.
Same.
First phase and this phase.